Okay, so the problem I was encountering was actually with GoZ breaking my linkage between files. So what I decided to do is basically merge the character mesh in Maya and GoZ it back, which kept the same scale and created a new file. And so what I did is I linked it. I've checked the UVs are fine here. There's no duplicate mesh. So there was something happening in the bridge between GoZ and Maya. So I think by basically kind of breaking the link by renaming it, because the linkage between GoZ, Maya, and ZBrush is the naming of subtools, and so by combining them all into one, I still keep my UDIMs, right? So that's all set up. And back here in ZBrush, it came in as one subtool, and then I basically color coded. So again, all the hair stuff is one polygroup, okay? The cuffs are another polygroup, right? So I've also divided this mesh up actually quite high to like 17 million polys. It's a bit overkill, but I wanted to get very high quality poly groupings. And this is, you know, the grouping maybe looks a little different. Hold on, let me go to colorize, turn that off. There. So yeah, I have these different poly groupings. And then again, so anywhere where there's a different material, I will keep the poly grouping. So this is going to be like a rubbery base, more leather, right? More fabric, maybe different material on the cuff. So basically I had to divide this up because I'm going to create this texture map. The other thing is I did bring over one of my other models, this one here. So I am sort of trying to get this shape onto my low poly. So you can go in. I'm going to just see if I can get those patches to work. So basically for that, I'm going to isolate this. Again, let me go down to my low res so it's faster to work, right? So if I want to try to project that, I can try to do that. Okay, so I'll go and do I'm basically going to mask this. I'm going to mask and then flip the mask around, unhide, flip the mask around. So if I just leave these two tools visible, yeah, I'll turn off these other boots. Again, I don't want to get confused with all the other stuff. So just make sure the stuff you want to project, whether it's the shape, the texture, is what's visible. So in this case, I just want the color from here. For this, I basically went into organizing the model, and I basically did poly paint from polygroup, right? So that I want to transfer that so I have selections to kind of paint in these patches in a custom way. And I've already done poly paint from polygroup down here, so let me go down here. There we go. All right, so this thing, if I hit colorize, right, it's got poly paint from polygroup. So again, the way to do that is that if you have no color, or let's say I'll reset it. So I'll go to my paintbrush here and just fill with white, right? So if you have all this, fill object, there we go. All right, so if you have that, what you can do is basically make sure your model is at its highest division level, and you go to poly paint from polygroup. So it just literally converts the poly paint into basically what will become selections or ID masks, okay? The next step is, like I said, if I wanted to, I can take this and yeah, I'm going to isolate. Oops, sorry, let's go down and res a bit so it's fast. There we go. There, hide the boots, hide this. So again, polygrouping can be used, right, for different purposes. So I'm basically going to project the polygrouping from the other tool. So if I get out of visibility, you'll see right that other tool's there. And if I go project under project, just color, project, right? Again, I'll make sure at my higher division level so I get a nice, crisp, clean project. I'll say project all. So I should get a much better projection so I can have those kind of custom color patches projected. Okay, so we'll give that a minute to project. Okay, so that's a lot cleaner. I'm going to solo this. If anything happens to be missing, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just Dynamesh the other tool, because I think this one still has separate pieces, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, these are still separate floating bits, so sometimes it kind of gets confused. So yeah, either you can try Dynameshing that higher res piece, or in the projection, I might just try to go to maybe the outer or the furthest. I'll see if that makes a difference with the projection. So I decided to Dynamesh just because, yeah, it was kind of projecting between multiple sort of separate mesh within that tool. So if I now go back here and do another project, you should see a clean projection. So I'll turn off inner, outer, furthest, any of these settings I had, do a project, and I should get a much cleaner, tighter projection of that sort of pocket detail. So this color coding will allow me to get very crisp, clean, quick selections of those details and allow me to do baking and painting and put unique materials on these spots. Now you see I've got this clean projection happening for the color. Now the way to get this out, because this has 5 or 4 UDIMs, is to go to Z Plugin, Multi-Map Exporter. So this is on the color layer, okay? Texture from Polypaints. I'm going to set it to 4K with a 16 pixel border. I'm going to say under the, oh, I forget where it is now. Export options, file names. I do want to go back to this. There's a .tiff format. I recommend it. Override existing files if so. And then for this, because I'm using the texture map as an ID, I'm going to call it, I actually already have an underscore, I think, in the name. So I'm just going to put underscore and then underscore, hit enter. And I want this set to UDIM, and I don't want the output list here. This is fine. I'll say OK. Then go to Z Plugin, create all maps. It'll take a moment to bake them, but I should have a new set. Basically, what should happen is that the 4 UV sets now, you see these color codings are basically meant to represent the specific islands that you want to be able to quickly select. So the blue here is like the facial hair. The purple is the skin, right? So yeah, these maps should work pretty well. I'm going to go back into, I'll start Substance Painter. And by the way, the output here, Substance Painter, I did use the base mesh here. Okay, so it's just a matter of just going to Z Plugin. Yeah, going to Z Plugin, FBX Export. Just go to Selected because I'm only dealing with the one low res. I'll go to Export. And I'll place it in my project folder. So I saved it to low. And let's get into Substance. We're going to go to File, New. Again, PBR Specular Glossy Starter Assets. I'll select the low poly object I've exported. I'll set the resolution of 4096. I'm going to say Use UV Tile Workflow. I'm going to say Preserve UV Tile per material and enable painting across tiles. You can try this option too, but I prefer this one. And I'm going to turn off Import Cameras and Auto Unwrap. Select OK. Okay, so now if you take a look, we've got all the UDIMs properly here, and you can paint across all of them if you wish. However, the reason why I use this ID map system is that I want to be able to paint across multiple objects. So what we can do, by the way, and this is the UDIMs, right? So when you bake out the texture maps, you'll have texture map for the character, Rachel character, right? Geo texture, 1001, 02, 03, 04. So you've got 4 textures, but within that, you can still apply unique materials. So I'll show you how that works. So let's say if I just go into, yeah, I'll pick an asset class here. Let's expand. So maybe I'll go and type in fabric, for example. Yeah, I'll take something like this, drag it on. Problem is it's going to go onto everything that you choose, right? So what we can do is basically load what's called the, sorry, let's delete that. If we go into the texture set, texture set list, texture set, layers, sorry, let me reset my interface here, reset UI. Yes, I'm going to click on the little bagel icon or croissant icon, I should say. Right now, I haven't loaded a high-res mesh. I will show you this next class, but basically I want to set my output texture size, 4096. I'm going to apply diffusion and my diffusion width, which is like my pixel dilation, 16 pixels. And for now, I'll say use low poly mesh as high poly mesh, and I'll say bake selected textures. Okay, so I'm going to return to painting mode here, and that texture map set that I created with these IDs, one thing you have to be careful of, like I said, is the naming. So you do want to have an underscore at the very end and then the number for the UDIMs for this to be recognized. And I'll show you how to import this and how to load it. So when we go back to, let's say our layers here, you scroll down in the layer, the texture set settings, and you'll see ID map. Right now there's no real ID map, but if we click on the plus icon and go to add resources, I'm going to load these 4 texture maps. I'll say open. Make sure they're defined as texture. Okay, and then I'll say import. Right away you see that you should see this as a basically one tile, but it has the number 4, meaning there's 4 UDIMs detected. If there's an error, most likely it's the naming. So just make sure there's an underscore and then the numbers that correspond to the right tiles. So what's cool about this now is if I drag this out and put this in here, right? Nothing is happening yet, but I'm going to reset my library, go back to a smart material, and I'll check out my layers. Okay, so I've got the layers here. I can see the UV sets of the tiles. And let's say I go to drag, yeah, I'll find fabric again. Oops, fabric. So I'll drag this brown out here. It just goes everywhere, right? So we'll see that in a minute. So it'll kind of flood everything. But what you can do is right click now. Oops. Right click and go to add mask with color selection. So now if you click on your color picker, you literally just pick the color where you want this assigned, and that's where that texture will belong. Okay, so that's one of the huge advantages of using the material ID or map ID creation. So let's say I go to skin next. I'll drag this on. Right click and say add color selection. So again, I'll pick that purple. It should just pick up that facial region. Oops, let's make sure it's actually showing up here. There. So now that texture is only appearing right on that surface, okay? So that's a good way to kind of manage what's happening in the scene. Sometimes too, if there's a similar looking color, let me just go back to the picker. Yeah, this purple might be similar. So you can always drop the tolerance very, very low and see if that helps. And I may have made another mistake. We'll see. So if there, yeah, I'll subtract that red there. So yeah, I dropped the tolerance and now it's just strictly applying to that face, okay? So what's good about this is like now you can kind of work within these individual folders and for that specific part of a certain UV shell. And it can be very quick now to sort, set up and start laying down some base texture. And then we'll get into more detailed editing and painting and things like that. So again, I'll keep on doing this and I'll show you as I go just how we can apply these changes. So again, the same thing, apply material, smart material, or a basic material. I usually like to start with that as a jumping off point, and then I'll do typically layers of edits, and I do more procedural stuff than hand painted, but it is very, very useful. So yeah, I'll pick the pants very, very close in color, but yeah, at least now we've, getting different texture. Jump in here and see if there's any leather. There's usually some other stuff here. Leather. Yeah, let's try that. Drag that on. And again, I'll go in with the color picker. Okay. Again, I'll set the tolerance low because there's a very close purple there, but okay, so there we can see, very rough, but at least it's a starting point on the texture. Okay.